You become a leader, you cannot be saying yes all the time. You need to understand when to say no and what to prioritize. I personally keep track of a prioritization like personal page in Notion, which helps me to put down everything, what's the mistake I did in the past, because instead of keeping things in the brain, it's better to put it somewhere. You need to take care of people and business at the same time when you are a leader. You need to be make the plan. Cannot have a concrete plan that works for everyone. So we need to be customizable and it has to be tailored according to the person we are mentoring.
Welcome everyone to a new episode of the Top Mentor podcast. And today we have Nithin, who is a QA engineering and lead. Hi Nithin.
Hello Victor, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Yeah, it's an honor to have you here and to be able to show to the audience what have you learned in your career as a QA engineering lead, and how do you manage a lot of people. And I believe you have like a very interesting story to share with your community practice. So I would like to start because QA, it's a curious topic for me. I've seen some mentees landing there, especially in the starting point of the careers where people have doubts about where to move and they don't know these kind of positions. So, how did you start in QA and what's the main reason you are still working there?
Okay, so I'll be honest, it was really accidental, like many of the testers out there. So I worked as a developer when I was doing some side project after my university. And then when I started to look for a full-time job, a quality assurance job was the one which I got into. And after joining and trying out with several projects, working with several projects as a QA, it sparked some interest to stay in the craft, continue my passion in testing itself. Maybe because it is putting me more empathetical towards the end user, so I could think from someone else's place and have contributions or more valuable contributions to build something great or solving their problem, right? So maybe that empathy factor put me to stay in that craft until this 10 years time. That is why I'm here.
No, that's very interesting that you keep on being empathetic with the user and being able to rely on that everything that they use, you
Yeah.
test it beforehand so that the flows and the automation, it's great because I've worked on a little bit on that because, I've touched a lot of sites and this has been like some tips that I've run. And I believe that this is a complex topic because sometimes you are more in the shadows, like testing
Yeah,
everything that
exactly.
you are not seeing, and maybe you are a bit underestimated, especially in big projects. So, what do you think is the key for a QA engineer to be relevant and to being able to be successful in terms of their role?
Have to be more agile and adaptable, I would say, and also a good communicator because QA is a profession that requires a lot of communication and collaboration with other stakeholders. And you have to be more present, right? If you're in the background as a ninja, then your quality advocacy practice won't reach the level you want it to be. So it is good to be a better communicator and collaborator in the teams and also to preach the value of quality, right? Because when we say quality is a whole team responsibility, but there has to be a person who champion that mindset first so that the others can follow you. So you need to be that champion, bringing that awareness to the teams with more adaptability and agility because with the trends going on, like you said, there is more automation and there are more quality engineering practices when you have to switch your context to testing observability practices and also shifting left, shifting right, those kind of things, right? So everything you need to be adaptable. And with AI, there is more challenge coming in. You need to be more adaptable or you need to be more accountable in yourself, like upskilling yourself to learn new practices. So thereby you can be relevant in your place and also you can bring more value into your teams by being more advocating about quality.
Yeah, that's also true. Like it's difficult you need to be able to lead that part and to be able to translate it to the other sectors and other stakeholders because sometimes it's undervalued the quality that you can get on the tests, and then that if you need it, maybe it's too cumbersome, maybe when you need
Exactly.
that, because I believe it takes effort and you need to be aware like when do you put it to so it gets value, because you need to be safe that, for example, your application it's able to log in user or to sign up users or to get the billing correctly, things like
Yeah.
that. should be QA tested. And also on the AA part,
Mm-hmm.
from my reduced experience on the QA part, I believe that there is a lot of text and a lot of snippets and a lot of automations that tend to be reused over and over again. So, do you think AI, in the terms of Gen AI, of LLMs, will help the QA engineers be more efficient in your practice?
Yes, I do because we QA field, right? So we have functional part where we do many tests, exploring things and all. And it could be sometimes pretty redundant. You're doing repetitive things over and over, but you need to have some concrete practices which you can reuse. So with the AI help, we can actually reduce the effort and increase the productivity and efficiency of the QAs by having something like as an assistant tool, right? So AI can be an assistant, personal assistant for them to generate test ideas, but still the human factor really matters. And when it comes to automation, to actually build a framework which is more reusable and reliable. When you reuse, you have certain code snippets which you can call in certain other classes, make it more reusable. And maybe you need to understand, like you search in Stack Overflow previously, now you have Copilot to generate the code. So,
Yeah.
but still, you need to rephrase it, right? So you won't copy paste directly from Stack Overflow. You adapt that into yours and tailor it according to how you need the function to be working. So that logic has to be humane. Still, this will actually encourage or work as an assistant to make them more efficient and productive.
Yeah, I think that that's one of the main illustrations of how AI could help, because you have the repetitive kind of snippets, and then you have
Exactly.
to adapt to the content of the application so that the test runs properly, like acting the flows, and those flows are difficult to for an AI to identify
Yeah.
exactly where should it check and all of that, but the template could be similar. So
Yeah.
then you can have the adaptation, and then you rely on the human to be able to pick the correct elements. I don't know if you agree on that vision. I think it illustrates a lot,
Exactly.
like enhancements of productivity.
Exactly. And maybe I can add on one more point because previously you might know that we have a lot of low code solutions in testing space, right? So it's basically low code with the bare minimum knowledge in coding. You can actually create an automation from scratch. And that's the capability the code tools provide to the QAs. But it doesn't mean that you don't need to think or adapt your application. So you still need to think and evaluate the scope and how the framework is set up with the cloud platforms, but they just enable you to have lesser complications when it comes to coding.
Yeah.
So it's a
No,
similar thing.
that's yeah, that's totally agree with that. Sometimes low code and this automated solution can be a lot helpful in generating the bulk, and then the human part starts to shine and to be specific, because some people think that this could be repetitive, but QA requires a lot of being precise, and
Yeah.
otherwise it's going to be difficult and cumbersome bug, because you are always debugging the application, like finding the right
Yeah.
for developers who will know that sometimes if you don't debug well, you will struggle a lot of time, and
So,
it could be an exhausting task.
yeah.
So, moving on to a different topic, more oriented on the career side, I want to know about more about your career. How, you mentioned before that you are now as a head of a QA department,
Yeah.
so you are leading about 20 people. So, what did you make decide you to start advancing in the hierarchy of companies and starting to lead management to more management kind of position?
Okay. So, yeah, maybe I can start from my early days in my career where I was an individual contributor because I'm like everyone. Once I started to have a job, I was basically an individual contributor with a set of goals, contributes to the company's objectives and all, right? So I started my career with a servicing sort of company because we had multiple clients. So we have different domains, different projects and all. That actually laid, I would say, a strong foundation for me because working with different domains and different technologies give me an exposure to learn different things, and working with different stakeholders actually enabled me to learn more things in a different way, right? Because the clients were running across US, Europe, and other countries. So I had a chance to work with diverse cultures and collaborate more with them. It really helped. And then nearly 6 years, I was in India, mostly working with servicing companies. Everything was like you switch a project within 1 year, 2 years. The major project which I worked on lasted for 3 years. So the rest, it was like 1 year, you work for a client, you set up something, and then you move. During that project, I had a chance to work independently and also with the team. So it gives me a kind of like knowledge to work with like something, creating something from scratch if you are independent, and also creating something from scratch when you are with a team. And as I grew and I became a QA, I got a chance to actually mentor my junior QAs, let them know how we could manage things together and also delegate few things. So I started to have like understanding on to mentor them and also delegate things to them. So together we can achieve more things, right? So those kind of things happen during the senior QA transition phase. And then I moved to Malaysia. So I was given a challenging project that we had to set up everything from scratch for a fintech company because we were having no automation there. So we wanted to ramp up the release cycles, fasten the feedback and everything. So I started everything from scratch. And once we had the stable framework, we had to onboard more automation QA engineers to support the company's code. So when there was a need to hire more automation QA engineers, I was the most senior person in that team. So my lead gave me the opportunity to lead the automation wing of things. So while
Mm-hmm.
he was leading the entire QA practice or the QA community, he actually gave me the opportunity to lead the smaller piece of it. So that was an eye-opening moment for me because I was having a vision to move into more management and leadership kind of things because I was leading complex project but not leading people. So
Mm-hmm.
technical side, I was okay to manage and lead things, but from a people management perspective, it was really something new for me. I started with two people working closely with me. So, and we started to have like solid results coming out of that time. And then lead actually switched to product side. So he moved to product and then he wanted me to take over the entire QA practice. So that was the time I started to manage the entire QA chapter, which had 18 people in total. And it was a great opportunity because he was mentoring me, and I had a great CTO who had a pretty nice vision in terms of how to structure teams and how to manage people. So I had a mentor to look up to when it comes to people management. And our people HR team actually supported me during the transition phase. So they actually give some trainings where how I should focus on managing people, having conversations, feedback loops, and everything. So, along with the technical skills, it was easy for me to adapt and also to manage the team. And I'm glad to say that it was one of the great teams I managed, and it was the high performing team which won the awards over there. So it was a nice experience,
Mm-hmm.
and that gave me a solid foundation on how to have like a balanced team, a healthy team that actually contributes, brings some value on what a company tries to achieve. And then from there, I moved to Barcelona. So currently I'm here. I'm leading the department of QA. I have 22 QAs now, which includes functional QAs and also automation engineers. We work as a chapter and I actually bring the quality practices. We branched out into our development squad. So still it's a long journey because leadership, you don't have an end state. You are still
Yeah.
learning every day many things. But I feel like I really belong and I enjoy working with people and actually helping them to succeed. It actually makes me help me succeed. So I see their growth as my growth. So my team members are growing. I feel like I'm also growing.
That's quite a story, to be honest. Dealing with those amount of changes and dealing with, being able to lead thing that is from scratch, and it's like, oof, I'm not sure if you are you going to get it or not, and you have those doubts for sure. But then you see that with
Yeah,
effort and that.
it's a risk when you need to set up something from you are asked to build a team from scratch. It's actually a gamble. So it could go wrong
Yeah.
and it could be a success. And if you have the right people by your side, it could be a success. Fortunately, I had the good people on my side.
I believe also that the quality of the team can build anything that they propose, and it's like the core, the source of all products, like success
Indeed. Mm.
is the team that builds it. It's not anything else apart from a good lead and good people could be anything. So I want to ask you more about that transition that you have about on the leadership side. Do you think that the role
Mhm.
that the CTO and the lead that you had was key to your transformation as a manager or as a lead, and also that formation that you mentioned about HR and how to
Yeah.
deal with people? Do you think those lessons are
Mhm.
core to your development now?
Yes, it is a core foundation me because actually helped me during that transition phase because they know the technical competencies of my side, but from a managemental point of view, that competencies was pretty new for me, like everyone else, right? So they actually mentored me in terms of like what you need to be focusing more on, what you need to be taking like less care on. So those kind of things. So I can have a balance from technical and managemental competency laid a foundation. And truly, when we are looking up to or moving to a stage where you are leading teams from an
Mm-hmm.
individual contributor, you really need a support system because it's a huge change. So, from a contributor, you are becoming a manager of contributors. And your
Mm-hmm.
contributors will be looking up to you on how you manage the team, right? So, you have a huge responsibility and it is not an easy shift. You have to be ready. At the same time, you have to be ready in encouraging or bringing the best out of the contributors. And for me, it was kind of like not kind of like an exponential transition. It was a staggered sort of phase, right? So I had a good amount of time as an individual contributor. Then I had an extended responsibility where I played crucial role in senior QA level, slowly leading the junior team members. And then I had a phase where I started to set up things from scratch and had like couple of people working or reporting directly to me. And from there, I had the 20 people, right? So you slowly adapt with the changes and then finally you become ready for that.
Yeah, I believe that also it happens in with progress in life. Sometimes you have this cure for the hockey stick when you like start from nothing and then a key point just blows
Exactly.
up. And sometimes in their career is like I prefer the stairs. Like
Mm-hmm.
you like give it a jump, then you
Then
stabilize a
it's
bit, and then you went up. And I believe that's your case, right?
exactly.
Yeah, and also from these learners that you have, what's been the change in your perspective about management? Like
Mm-hmm.
from where you were a technical guy, where you were reporting to someone, and now when you shift to management, what's been your change in the perspective of how you perceive managers?
Uh, Seeing the bigger picture is one of the highest skill that a manager should have, I guess, because when you are an individual contributor, you are doing what you are told to do, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
only you have a set of tasks which your manager assigns to you or your team wants you to do, and which is mostly clear for you, like what's the deliverable and what's the deadline, and everything is clear for you. But when you move to a manager sort of position, many things are unclear for you. It's like unexplored charters of water, and you need to explore and find opportunities so that those opportunities can be an opportunity for your team, right? So you need to be more explorative, and also you need to understand that there are plenty of opportunities. You need to find a way to understand what all are those opportunities within the existing process or the new things you want to implement, and also you need to think about the bigger picture. So if you're doing a change, how it gonna impact your team and also what benefit it brings to the organization, right? You cannot straight away say, okay, I need to try X because I want X. So it's not like that. It's you want X. It's actually your company needs you to do X. But you need to find that opportunity and why that has to be done. So basically seeing the bigger picture connected with understanding the why behind doing something makes you more managerial kind of shift from a technical point of view. Because from technical, it's like you do more hands-on things, which is always told to you, and sometimes you do certain exploration to find make things better, but it's still like to you're contributing. So you are not leading or you are not finding ways to bring more changes or something like that.
No, that's totally true. Seeing the bigger picture is difficult. When you are reduced scope as an individual contributor, you don't think about how to deal with the stakeholders, how this could affect the
Exactly.
company, how this could affect other teams, and should you collaborate, should you not? And these all are on the management side. It's like, okay, we may need to plan ahead and see what this decision could affect others. And this is something that I'm very curious of, for example, on my manager, and when
Mm-hmm.
it starts to grow, how do you keep track of everything? And how do I know it's difficult, but how do you prioritize? Because I believe that in management, the task prioritization, and this could to everything in life, but especially in management, all it's about awareness
Yeah.
and prioritization of tasks. So how do you deal with that in your current role?
To be honest, initially I struggled a lot
It's
During the
normal.
initial stages, I was kind of like, because you are new to management, right? So that is one advice I want to give to people as well. Because when you are new to a management position, you tend to say yes to everything because you want to be a people pleaser, basically. And that's human nature, we understand. But you become a leader, you cannot be saying yes all the time. You need to understand when to say no and what to prioritize. So initially, it was hard for me. I had a messy schedule. I was lacking proper prioritization and everything. And my calendar was super packed almost all the time. And I was draining out. So then I started to explore like be more productive and also to find ways on how to better have prioritization and started to say no to certain things. So I personally keep track of a prioritization like personal page in Notion, which helps me to put down everything what I feel like, okay, I have to do within this week or maybe in future, something like that. So I add everything over there. And then I do like every day and end of the day, before I wrap my work, I actually review the set of items which I plan to do. And then I prioritize for the day and the next day and also for the week. So it's kind of like a routine task for me now. When I end up my day, I just go through the backlog of items and I just put some priorities for that, which help me to declutter or maybe keep me more safe and calm for the next day
Yeah.
because I know what I need to do on the next day. So and that kind of helps. And what I would say is it's a mistake I did in the past because instead of keeping things in the brain, it's better to put it somewhere. So if you are having, I'm not saying you should use a productivity tool. Maybe a notebook actually works. So you can just write it down, let it go out of your brain so you have a better peace of mind. Once I started to do that, I could feel that it was helping me to be more productive because I could see where I should put more focus on and what are other things I can deprioritize because not everything is urgent, not everything is a priority. So filtering out things and planning ahead was a key.
Yeah, I believe that's true about like the urgency and the importance matrix. That I believe it's called the Eisenhower one,
Yeah.
where you prioritize tasks and also from other resources and from other leaders that I've been following, be able to schedule tasks for tomorrow and then not focusing on that the day that you are working on those, like doing full deep work. And now it's so trendy because we are in a world of
Exactly.
distractions, and being able to, when you are more tired, you schedule everything for tomorrow, and then when you wake up or when you start working, you go ahead and execute the task, and you don't spend time, checking emails or checking your list or thinking about what should I do. Like put it everything on, write on paper or online, Apple Notes, whatever,
Yeah.
and then execute task by task made on priorities. That's
Decluttering
really
our
insane.
mind.
Yeah, because I believe sometimes we load ourselves with a lot of
Mhm,
cognitive
mhm.
load in things that might not be relevant, or not that they are not relevant, but they could be, flashed away.
Yes.
And so we can focus our cognitive load in things that require like learning new things, thinking about possible solutions, all of that, instead of I have to remember that I have to send an email about whatever, then you send the email and you schedule it and
Exactly.
whatever.
Since you
So,
touched the scheduling factor, that also actually helps because nowadays, even in Slack and Gmail, you have the scheduling option. So if you kind of like you want to have a follow up, you can actually say schedule that email for some time in the future and just say, it will automatically go out during that time. So thereby you can actually reduce your cognitive lot of thinking about sending a message.
yeah, and I also believe that the bulk kind of topic, like creating things, if you can, like the
Mhm.
task in bulk that you need to schedule, whatever, if you have to send, I don't know, or you have to create posts, or you have to do LinkedIn or whatever, then you can do it in one afternoon and then you schedule them. And
Exactly.
then you will do it like monthly basis.
Uh,
It's like with batch cooking that you
But,
can do your meals in a day
and then
and
you have it
hopefully
for
do
the
it.
whole week.
Yeah, that's like efficiency tips. So I want to ask you about other topic, because sometimes in leadership, especially in the middle management side,
Mhm.
I would like to know how you try or how to be able to make impact in your company, because I believe in companies that are large, some people might see that I won't change anything because I cannot. How do you deal with, talking with leadership in terms of if you can access to board
Yeah.
levels, CTO kind of as you mentioned, or how do you try to make an impact in your role, like when you are managing?
It is basically lying on the I prefer to be more outcome driven or value driven. Because if you are focusing more on the task, it is just
Mm-hmm.
completing the task, right? You are not connecting it with an outcome that really makes some sense for the higher level management or the CTOs or board of directors or someone. So what they want to know is within a shorter period of time, they want to see the value of work you are doing. So if we are able to connect things in a way that it is giving more clarity on the value and outcome narrative, makes it easier for them to understand. So that is one thing I keep in my mind whenever I am pitching something to the upper management. I connect it in a way that what value it brings and how it helps us to optimize certain things. So let's say, for example, you can say, I need to automate 100 things because it brings X value, or it reduces, or it helps us to move more faster, or maybe have releases within one day or half an hour. So that quantitative measure is actually the value factor, which gives more clarity for them. So having it connected to outcome and value, it's easier to have a conversation with the upper management and brings more visibility in the work you are doing. So if you are just saying like task, 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 they don't understand and they don't really care. So be more kind of like vocal communicator. Sometimes you have to over communicate as well because the upper management is quite busy and you need to be over communicative at certain times. But you need to find a balance when to over communicate and when not to over communicate, and then bring this value narrative. So it will be more easy.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. Because sometimes, especially coming from the technical side,
Mhm.
we tend to focus more on the technical complexity of our tasks, and we believe that our tasks are better because they are more complex.
Exactly.
And sometimes it doesn't need to be that way. If you provide the value with a simple thing, it's even better because it will be more cost efficient in terms of time,
Yeah.
cost of effort, and you need to see the trade off of what this brings and what is costing the company or in terms of money and all of that. So, and that's what leadership understands. Like
Indeed.
the ROI that you have,
Yeah.
it's something that if you can say, I can save the company, $1,000 per day, then they will pay attention. If you improve the efficiency of, the team in, releasing in 1 hour less, it will mean 1 hour for a lot of people,
A lot of
and that's a
people.
lot of money.
Yeah.
Like
And we
when you
can
when
ship
you have
more
the
things in a day, maybe.
yeah, you can release more, and then you can ship test more, and then your application will improve faster, and then
Yeah.
everything goes up. So I believe that focusing on the value, as you mentioned, is totally key instead of the technical parts, because sometimes even they don't understand, doesn't need to do. Maybe a CTO could,
Exactly.
but sometimes they don't, and
The-
you need to focus on the deliverable, the values that you're going to get, not any
No,
commission.
and it is also one of the mindset shift we will be having when you are moving from a technical individual contributor to management. Because when you are a technical individual contributor, you will be thinking of the technicalities of doing that, and all the thing you say relates to the technology behind it. Won't connect to the value narrative. When you move to the managemental side of things, you need to understand how it impacts or what value it gives, and also in the bigger picture or in the future, how it helps the team and the company, right? So that vision need to be there. You move to a more higher leadership sort of.
Yeah, that's key. The value. I tend to focus a lot on the value because I believe it's where, when companies
Yeah.
grow. So moving on to a different topic is on the mentorship side. So based on all the learnings that you have and all your role and your experiences, how do you approach mentoring for the different types of mentees that you have, and what techniques or tips do you tend to use to handle your mentorships?
So we need to understand the persona because it changes from mentee to mentee. So some will be facing challenge on a certain area where others actually excel, right? So we need to be make the plan. Cannot have a concrete plan that works for everyone. So we need to be customizable and it has to be tailored according to the person we are mentoring. And you should also find a balance. So when I started my mentoring journey, like I started to mentor people, I actually have a discovery sort of call first with them to understand what all are their challenges. And then I share my experience with them on how to tackle those challenges on a high level point of view. So then we agree on a common connection. So you need to find that connection, whether this mentor works for you and also the mentee works for you, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you are not having that connection, the mentorship itself won't succeed. You need to have a proper discovery to understand what you can offer and what they can offer. So it's kind of like a mutual exchange. You will also learn something from them for sure. That kind of like understanding or alignment is a key. And after that, you can work based on what is their expectations, right? So if they say like, you need to find a job in leadership position. So they are working as an individual contributor. They have to move to a leadership position. What all are the things they need to do? And then together with them, identify what they are doing currently in their job scope, where they excel, and also where they lack some skills. And then from there, you work out a plan for them. So within this point of time, you create like shorter milestones. So this is how I work. I help them to
Mm-hmm.
have like smaller milestone. And when they achieve that milestone, we actually celebrate together. So that
Mm-hmm.
celebration is actually a key to motivate them to do the next milestone. After that set of like milestone achievements, automatically few things will come to them because they are learning things on the go, and then they actually move more closer to what they want to achieve. And then we have kind of like check-in phase where after a set of milestones, we actually have a check-in to evaluate how the progress is going, or if we need to readjust something. Because let's say if it is a 6 months mentorship program,
Mm-hmm.
over the course of time, some interests might change. Maybe the company is not providing you the opportunity to switch to leadership. You still want to pursue it. So you don't have a leadership sort of title opportunity, but you still can have leader by yourself. So we need to change
Mm-hmm.
the focus in a way that it customizes according to what transition phase you are having, and based on your expectations, we can tailor that. Like we will be tailoring it, right? So making an adaptable sort of mentoring plan is also a key to based on how the milestones are being progressed. And then from there, like have a regular check-ins with the mentees and also maybe exchange them some tips. So let's say if they are having a block, like scenario where they are blocked to proceed and they don't know what to do, and provide something like a support to them as they, they're on chat GPT, right? So they could ask
Yeah.
something and we could share some tips based on our experience. That it shouldn't have to be right. Maybe it's something we did, but they still have to make it customizable for them, for their situation. But still, they get an advice which they can actually use as a first step to try and tweak. So, yeah, so having it based on the personas is the key. So, I try to be making like more people oriented, like from what they expect. And then there's also a thin balance between coaching and mentoring, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
some people actually need a coach and some people actually need a mentor. So we need to like discovery sort of calls actually help me to understand whether they need a coach or whether they need a mentor. And then I try to tailor the plan according to that. So maybe some leans more towards coaching and some leans more towards mentoring.
That's very interesting. Like I agree with the being able to support them and being able to provide the tips that okay, when I was in that situation, maybe I tested this and I suggest
Yeah.
you try it to see, because maybe they don't need to use that specific tool, for example, but they will find a related one. Then you can fast track them,
Yeah.
more or less, because you have played around with it, you have a struggle with it, and you know, okay, for this, you will use this because I've used it. It's the best tool for me. Maybe not the best tool for you, but I
Okay.
use it.
Yeah.
Then they have a reference, and I believe having a reference, something to copy and then try your own and see if it's working for you, they will reduce a lot of the time that they need to research and then try and then go back, blah blah blah. It's a lot of time spent there, as we all know. That if we don't have a
True.
reference, we
True.
tend to, even though the research part is funny, it's kind of a time expensive
Yeah.
task. And also what you mentioned about coaching, sometimes people need more of an orientation on how to approach things, more than the technical part that a mentor could give you,
Yeah.
in terms of okay, go this path or this path, is like approach it that way. And I believe that it especially affects leadership roles when the differences are more subtle or they are more oriented to dealing with people. How do you think that that affects?
Leading people is always complex
Mm-hmm.
because you will have different set of challenges every time. So one, when I moved to leadership also, I had to go through different situations that put me in difficult situations sometimes, because as a leader, you need to find ways to identify what works best for the team and also for the person you are leading. The end, it actually comes down to the people you are managing, right? And you are someone who is actually taking care of that people. So those people or team members who are working closely with you, you are actually taking care of them. So you need to understand what brings best out of them and also where they excel. And you need to be constantly helping them or guiding them to reach their full potential. So certain times it wouldn't be in the favor of all the decisions that they expect us to take. But as a leader, you have to take sometimes tough calls as well. So it's a tough situation. I have been through several tough situations like that in the past. It's an adaptation phase. You need to understand how it helps your people and what is beneficial for the team. And you need to take care of people and business at the same time when you are a leader. So you have to be more people oriented. And I feel like I am more people oriented. At certain point of time, you need to keep a boundary where you need to balance business as well.
That's a key insight. So yes, to help others that are seniors or are thinking about mentoring or they are starting
Mhm.
to mentor, what advice or what tips would you give them in order to start, or if they are thinking on starting, why should they start, and if they have started, how they should deal with these first steps, because we both know that those are difficult to deal with. So what advice would you give to these people?
Uh, I would say be confident in what you can offer, because each of us has our own story and our own experiences. And our experiences can be a Bible for other people, right? Because they actually kind of go through similar situations, and many of us actually goes through similar situations. And where we lack in terms of understanding is basically they don't know how to navigate through that path. And we, maybe as seniors, we actually took that path, and some of us actually know how to navigate through that path, right? So be confident in your own experiences and be more able to share that, providing a help or support to the rest of the people. And I would say start really small. So you don't need to be there as a mentor on a big huge platform or something. You can start from your home itself. So maybe start mentoring your close friends or close relatives, which make it more easy for you to manage certain things. So you don't need to be technically mentoring them. Maybe a life
Mm.
advice should be fine. So you can take some baby steps in terms of doing smaller things, and then start with your team. So within your team, you try to help one person to help them move closer to their career goals or ambitions and all, help them grow. And then once you start observing that growth, you actually feel like, okay, I'm bringing some value to some person. And that gives you more like a feeling like an accomplishment, right? And then can spread out a bit. So reach out to the communities, have like offering mentoring support, have a couple of calls with few people, and also maybe talk to other mentors to understand how they handle certain situations. So collectively, like you will have a set of like all the dots around, and then you try to connect all the dots to make it a perfect picture. And then, yeah. So after that, you can go on a big platform, have a big mentorship program out there, and you can take more mentees in, have a proper program.
I believe that's a wonderful advice in terms of starting small and then grow big, and also to be able to be confident on yourself, because you don't know the potential. Probably you don't know the potential that you have and the things
Exactly.
that you have achieved, and you can show a lot to the rest of the world, I guess.
And
So,
it won't work for everyone, also, right, Victor? And we have to be able
mhm.
to understand and accept the fact that not everyone can be a mentor. Sometimes it won't work. Or maybe if you are mentoring someone, sometimes it won't go right. So not all the people we mentor will succeed. So we have to be like okay with ourselves. Like sometimes failures can also be a thing, but you need to learn from that, or you need to acknowledge that fact.
Yeah, and I believe it's where you learn the most,
Exactly.
because when you have failures, I try to, because sometimes it went wrong. The mentorship, I didn't provide the value that the other person was expecting. I was fine with refunding, and especially with them like asking a lot of feedback. I
Mhm.
When I saw a failure, I didn't take it personal. Of course, I was just seeking about like, please provide me all the feedback. Try, and please, I will be here for help if you need anything. You have my email, you have my social media, so you can reach out to me, because I want to learn better to be able to help more people and better in the future. So you
Absolutely.
shouldn't take that as personal with people because they are trying to learn, and for any reason you are not perfect, then
Yeah.
you just fix it and that's it, and try to be cordial with these people. So wanted to for people that want to reach out to you, where they can find you, and what you can help them with your services.
I'm really active on LinkedIn, so they can connect with
Mm-hmm.
me over LinkedIn, and I have a website. So if they search for nithinss.com, they could easily find me. And there is an open platform for them to schedule a chat with me. For that, I don't charge anything. So to have a general chat for anything, it's totally fine. Once we move into the proper mentoring program, we have some sort of like payments or schedules and all those other things, right? So apart from that, LinkedIn chat or email is also fine. They can drop me or write me on whatever challenges they are having. And I'm actually eager to learn about other people's challenges and how I can help them or help them to achieve and be at their best. And then, yeah, so these are the two platforms. And I actually share more insights on engineering leadership and also technical side of things. So I try to find balance because, when you are in a leadership sort of position, you won't do things hands on, that kind of demotivate me too a bit. Uh, so I try to balance it out on a side hustle sort of thing. I try to upskill myself technically. On a day-to-day basis, it's more on engineering leadership, right? So I mentor on the technical side of things, and also I do provide my mentoring services on engineering leadership and how to like start a team from scratch, or how to build a quality strategy across startups. Those kind of things are my niche, I would say.
So I believe I will put everything on the description and on the post that I will share. And I hope that people would find you and they can chat and everyone can learn from you. So Nithin,
Thank you.
thanks a lot for being here. It's been an honor. I hope that people learn how to manage and how to deal with the management transition, and also to become a better QA engineer. Yeah, thanks a lot for being here.
Thanks for having me. And I really had a good time having this conversation with you. And I hope our audience will also find it valuable for them. So thank you so much.
I'm sure they will. So thanks a lot, and until next time.
Yeah. See you.
Bye.